One of the most difficult places to be in life is in the gap. The gap is when you're in a transition from where you are to where you would love to be. And I too have experienced the gap. And sometimes the gap is a few weeks, sometimes it's several years. And so today we're going to talk about how to navigate this gap in a way where we can feel empowered. Because many of the times it's all about looking at our situation from a different perspective. Hi, I'm Jessica Ozrek, and I am a certified coach. In addition to being in recruitment, I have been working on my mindset for over 20 years. And the truth is that we are always growing. As long as we are breathing, we want more. We want expansion. And that feeling of wanting more or wanting something new, bringing in change, bringing in the next level, that is very much life breathing us, because as we're alive, we are always growing and expanding. We live in a spiral universe. The universe is always expanding, and we live in a material world. And many of the times, the material reality is slower. So we get ideas, we have visions, we can feel the life that we want to bring in. And yet, we're not seeing the results that we want. So what happens? We start feeling discouraged. We start doubting. We get frustrated. We get impatient. And many of the times, we just give up because nothing's happening. We may be showing up day in and day out, putting in all the actions, even following our intuition, taking inspired action. And we look at the results and they're not changing. But this is where the magic happens, is in showing up and continuing to take the inspired action even when the results aren't happening yet. And why is this the place where the magic happens? Because even though we live in a society where we can go on Amazon and we can become a Prime member, so we get something within a day or two and it shows up on time, there is a natural phase of preparation. So when we are in a phase and we have plateaued and we're ready to bring in something next, what do we start doing? We start imagining what we would like to bring in next. Maybe it's a new job, a new relationship. Maybe we want to become a healthier version of ourselves. Maybe we want to travel or move. Or maybe we want to do all of this. Maybe we want to bring in more money or more abundance, prosperity, financial gain. We want to bring more impact so that we can make a difference in the world. I'm sure you're connecting to many of the things that I'm saying. And if you are, you're in the right place. So I invite you to continue listening so that you can learn how to navigate the gap in an empowered way. And if you like what you're hearing, I invite you to subscribe and hit like, as well as comment to what is resonating most to you. So as we're navigating this gap between the life that we've lived to where we want to go, there is an expanded vision for our life that we are envisioning. And we want to see different results externally in our 3D world. But where the growth is first required is within. Because when we get a vision for a dream, many of the times it's our soul's way of having us grow and expand internally. So I'm sure if you look back at your life and you've seen moments where you've up-leveled, you probably had to gain new skills. You probably had to become a healthier version of yourself. You may have even had to grow in patience or strength or emotional management. And these are only a few examples. But the internal growth is required so that we can hold and sustain that bigger vision of our life that we are calling to bring in. It's just like the tree, the oak tree. The oak tree is large externally, but underneath the ground is a large, very complex, deeply developed root system. Because if the tree just grew without building that deeply embedded root system, the moment a strong wind came through, the tree would fall down. And that is true with being able to hold and sustain that vision for your life that you would love to bring in as well. If the moment you wanted that bigger vision for your life, it came in, you may not be able to sustain it. So if you can look at the gap as the opportunity to grow a root system of preparation, internal preparation, then I imagine that you'll be able to embrace the waiting in a more empowered way. And we may not know what is required for us to sustain this bigger vision of our life that we're calling in. And so we need to trust the process. We need to trust the process. And so I want to invite you to incorporate this affirmation into your life. Trust the process. And so many of the times when we're looking to call in this bigger version of our life, we experience obstacles. We experience contrast, the complete opposite of what we're looking to bring in. We may experience loss. We may experience heartache, betrayal. We may experience financial turbulence. We may experience isolation. And all that we need to do during these times is to continue to show up, take inspired action, and ask our higher power, whether we call this spirit, God, whatever we choose to call life breathing us, ask, what am I meant to learn here? And then be open. And we may not always get the answer, but it's important that we be open to transforming. Because the more we resist transforming in this moment of preparation, the longer we are going to delay the process. And it is not up to us when we feel ready. And that's why it's so important to trust the process, because it is a process. It is a process. It's not an instant. And so what can we do during this time? Do we just keep showing up, taking inspired action, and having faith? Yes, we do. But there are other things that we can do during this time as well. For example, I have been calling in a vision, a greater version of my life, and I have been showing up and taking inspired action. And it's so important to feel like I'm creating some momentum in my life. And so where can we find these places of momentum? I'm going to give you a few ideas. So one is to pay attention to the internal growth that's happening. Because even though you may not see the external results yet, I promise you, if you're showing up and you're open to transforming and changing and evolving so that you can hold this bigger version of your life that you're calling in, if you are doing the work and you're showing up for yourself each day, then you will start seeing shifts in how you're responding rather than reacting. You're calmer in times where you may typically react or stress out. You may be having a sense of peace instead of fear. You may start looking at situations in a different way because as you're evolving to a greater version of yourself, many of the times, certain beliefs that you've held about the world and how it works are challenged because the new version of yourself is required to perceive things from a different angle. And so these are just 4 examples of some internal shifts that you may see. And I encourage you to acknowledge them and to celebrate them. Because it's just as if you were to plant a seed. And so imagine that you did plant a seed and you started seeing a sprout. We want to celebrate it. We want to continue to nurture it. We want to continue to feed and water these little sprouts so that they continue to grow. Because that internal growth is so important. Because when we want to bring in this greater version of ourselves, we don't just want it for a day or a few years. We want it for a long time. And this is why when you see lottery winners win the jackpot, they just blow all their money. And a few years later, they're back to their same financial situation that they were before they won the jackpot. It's because they didn't have this preparation. So rather than leaning into frustration and impatience, being able to see it as an intricate part of being able to hold and sustain this greater version of your life that you're calling in. And then another thing that you can do, which is something that I did, and I'll share exactly what I did, and maybe the same idea resonates with you, or maybe you have another idea that is kind of similar or sparks from me sharing with you what I did. So I hadn't run in over 20 years. And as I was showing up and putting in the action to bring in this greater version of my life, I got inspired to start running again. And I'm so grateful that I listened and I took the action on this in addition to what I'm looking to bring in, because it's helped to support me becoming the person living the life that I would love. And I started running, and I just started running 1 block, and then I slowly added distance on each time I ran. And within 2.5 months, I had gone from running a block to running 8 miles. And I did end up pulling back and doing some strength training, and now I run 3 miles 3 times a week. But I've been doing this consistently. And I love it because I can set a goal for myself and then I can achieve it within 30 minutes. And it feels really good to have some goals that I'm setting and that I can achieve within a shorter time frame as I'm going through this preparation that's taking years to bring in up until now. So I encourage you to set some goals that are attainable, but that are still moving you out of your comfort zone. Because again, I'm telling you that I ran for the first time in over 20 years. And that was me getting out of my comfort zone. So anytime that I finish a run, I'm like, yes, I did it. And it feels so good to have results that I'm looking to bring in as I'm waiting for this bigger version of my life to come in. And so that's one example, but it could be anything. It could be learning how to cook and you haven't done that before. It could be going on a first date that you haven't done in a while. It could be getting a new haircut. It could be so many different things. And as we're looking to call in this greater version of our life, many of the times it impacts more than just this one area of our life, because we're not a siloed human being. As human beings, we're always getting results in 4 areas of our life: our health and well-being, our love and relationships, our time and money freedom, and our vocation, which is how we give our gifts to the world. And so many of the times, at least 1 or 2 of these areas are calling for our attention. And even if we're pouring our attention in one of these 4 areas, many of the times it starts positively influencing the other 3. So if you are navigating the gap and you're looking for support at this time, I am a certified coach and I can support you. I do invite you to visit my website for more information, authera.com. I also have a link below where you can schedule a free interest call where we can talk about how the support that I can provide you looks like. And remember, if this resonated with you, please comment what most resonated with you below. Be sure to like and even share this with a friend, because we're all navigating life. And as we're breathing, we're all looking to expand and bring in this next level version of our life. And remember, you deserve to live a life that you absolutely love. You can do it. I believe in you.